dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Goonies never say die.
God knows I want you, but you don't get to destroy who I am.
The Night Rider.
I'm a compulsive liar.
That's rough, buddy.
And use the power of the Matrix to light our darkest hour.
Hey everyone, welcome to our very first FanCast. Now, what is a FanCast, you may say? Well, it's very similar to the Morning and Night podcast, only we're going to be looking at specific films and TV shows, and in this case, web series. And we're going to see kind of like the impact on pop culture, the impact it has on us, and we also have some fan theories and ideas that we would like to get out in each episode. But today, I'm joined by Mike, and we're talking about one of his favorite series, and one I've grown to appreciate, Marble Hornets.
Hold on, I'm gonna try and call back.
He's not gonna answer.
I'm gonna try.
You think he's following us?
Probably. I mean, if he just calls telling us to leave, then we're probably about to find something he doesn't want us to see, so let's keep going.
Well, we need to get out of here right now, then, if he's been following us.
Come on, go up here and then we'll see. Come on. Get, come on.
The show, it's reaching its, 11th anniversary?
Yeah, at the time of this recording, it's the 18th of June. On June 20th, it's going to be 11 years old. So we're a year late, but better late than never, so why not now?
Yeah, and an anniversary is an anniversary is an anniversary, you know? It's still good to commend. This show did a lot ahead of its time. And to think it predated Gravity Falls and these other shows that did the same thing by 2 years? That's something. That's really, really something. So
yeah, I
think the biggest impact, at least on me, is that it was really the first show. I wouldn't say first show ever. I would say the first independently run show that really gave people an active mystery element with a clear antithesis. I can't pronounce that right. Antithesis on horror. Of course, it's it even used ARG methods with having other YouTube channels and live tweeting the show was
one of the
happening.
first.
Yes, one of the first to do a real kind of ARG method to
keep
YouTube.
the story going and get people involved.
Yeah. And we'll get into Slender Man a little bit later, but right now I just think from a story perspective, I don't know, it did horror right, and it did horror in a way that wasn't really being done before. The most people had was Paranormal Activity and Blair Witch, but I will debate that Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity, there is a novelty to the found footage. With Marble Hornets, it cares enough about the characters and knowing the journeys that they go on that the novelty starts to wear off, and that you're actively a part of the journey, and it's almost obstacle. The found footage element is an obstacle for the characters, you know?
Yeah, pretty much. It's also the one very thing, it doesn't even get enough credit. It's the one thing that actually got Slender Man popular.
Yes, yeah.
Really, with media. And because all the things that you see with the video games, the tunnels and the notes and everything, Marble Hornets did that first. Even the static in the videos and stuff like that, Marble Hornets all did it first. And it even reinvented Slender Man. Before Marble Hornets even came out, Slender Man was a much different character than what we know it to be today.
Yeah.
And yeah, they even gave it a different name in the show. They called it the Operator in Marble Hornets.
Yeah, the Operator Slenderman. The original idea of it was a Photoshop picture. For the people who have it misconstrued, because a lot of people think that Slenderman is this demonic entity that was spawned in that And like we have the horrendous stabbing that happened, and people related to that. But it's an internet creepypasta. It was one of the first. It's one of
Exactly.
these.
It was literally made for the sole purpose of winning a spooky picture contest.
Yeah.
So everybody who's saying, "Oh, this is a really satanic entity thing," on the internet that kids are following, no, it was just a dumb little thing made for a contest.
I do have
to say, blew up.
I do have to say there are those extremist creepypasta. I have to say kids because I don't want to admit that like adults as much would do the same thing, but I could be wrong. That believe that the creepypastas are real, believe that they, and those kids in that real life incident obviously thought that. But I don't know, it's no more real to me than any of the other classic horror stories from back in the day, the Flatwoods Monster, the Mothman, everything. And I think that's what makes it so good, because Slenderman started off as like an entity that only is barely captured on film. It doesn't really have control, just like, oh, it's a creepy thing that preys on children. Marble Hornets made it basically an operator, made it an individual that like interacts with technology, lives around abandoned areas and is attracted by these abandoned areas, and weird instances happen when you're around him. Like he almost has this like, and that's what the show does really well. It has this creative outlook on how the world kind of exists with outside of it, and in a way, I think I wouldn't say they stole it. I think either inspired or just a coincidence. Stranger Things and a lot of other shows like that got that kind of influence of these monsters that did more than just killing and did more than just like possess people. It was an entity. It doesn't just have to be a ghost that does ghostly things. It emanates this almost radiation with the devices, with the coughing, everything.
Exactly, and they still, even in the very end, they never really explain what Slenderman or the operator, like what it even is, like at the end of the show, which is great.
Yeah,
because it helps people continue to talk about the show even now.
Yeah,
because right now it's 2020. The show ended in 2014, over 6 years ago. Well, it's going to be 6 years ago, and we're still talking about it, and there's still people on YouTube that go back and rewatch it. I still rewatch it every year.
Yeah, and the thing is, the irony of the whole situation where the show was very, as internet shows go, we had a bunch of vloggers in 2010 and the Angry Video Game Nerd. We never really had a consistent series that was produced on a little to no budget. And the ironic element of that is when they did get a budget, when they licensed out Slender Man to these big companies, and they thought they took this really original property and were like, okay, now we're going to do it right. The big budget blockbuster versions have less of an interesting story and will be remembered less than the ones that have no budget, than the ones that have literally no reason to exist.
Yeah, thanks, Sony.
Yeah. Well,
let's not talk about that nightmare.
That's just synergy, though. That's synergy. That's corporate synergy of people being like, this is popular, let's capitalize on it.
Exactly.
And the thing is, like, I don't blame them for like giving up the rights and just having the cash in, because obviously they were done and just were like, this is a series and that's it.
Well, I mean, they never really had the rights to Slenderman. I think Slenderman is just more of like a public domain thing. Sony just
not for that, for the other film they made, where it was quote unquote a Marble Hornets film. Like that was
you're talking about the that Marble Hornets story movie thing? I forgot what it was called. I never even watched it. I just heard it was really bad, and I've seen some clips.
Yeah, the only reliance it has on it is that they show the operator symbol and
there's a small reference. There's like, I think I've heard in one scene you see in the background, there's like an Alex Crayley missing flyer in the background, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, this is the thing, though. Like, we're going to reference it later on. We're going to talk about it when we get to our Mad Max episode. But Mad Max 3 wasn't supposed to be a Mad Max film. And somehow, even though people say it's the worst one, I still think it works as a Mad Max movie. It still works in its universe. You know what I mean? It's still real. It's just a sellout. It's not. It's so vaguely like I swear they put the Marble Hornets name on there just to get extra.
Exactly.
Views.
Well, even like about and yeah, this is still off topic, but it's only gonna be a minute. Even like with Beyond Thunderdome, that's still something that I can see myself like rewatching every once in a while. The Marble Hornets story. I keep forgetting the name of that movie. But it doesn't deserve to be remembered. So.
Well, this is the thing. Like, it's also when it comes to the medium of film, their story was done. You know, the 3 seasons, that's it, and like there wasn't really anything else. Like, it was the whole idea that like it ends on a crossroads. Literally, if we add more, it will kind of ruin the ride. And with that concept, I don't know. I'm gonna compare it to another very popular internet, like kind of creepypasta thing, like Five Nights at Freddy's. The director's, the game developer of the series, like everyone was chasing him for film rights, but he wasn't so quick to give him up because he actually thinks a film would be the kind of the last piece of lore that will really bring something to the series. So that's why it's taken, for people who are like, why is there a Five Nights at Freddy's film coming out in like 2021, 2022? That's why. It's swapped around directors, writers, and everything because he's not going to just give it up like that. But the thing is, I still, the Marble Hornet story is done, and that's...
And also, there's been attempts that the guys at FAC, they attempted to make sequels, like not direct sequels, like they were still taking place in the same universe, but it was going to explore like different kinds of entities and stuff. The first one being Clear Lakes 44, which I enjoyed kind of for the short run that it had, but the guys at FAC, they had different creative ideas and stuff that just clashed too much, and also the whole thing about Troy and like the whole money situation with him and having a fallout with everybody. And then he went on his own to create Ekva, which is another attempt at trying to expand the universe, which I don't know if it's still going on, but there hasn't been an upload in a long time.
Yeah.
Probably about like a year or so, I think, right now. I haven't checked in a while. But at the moment right now, there are Marble Hornets comics that he's selling. I haven't been able to read any of them, but from what I know, I think it follows Jessica after the events of Marble Hornets, which that I'm kind of interested in. The only problem is it does if it is canon, it does kind of ruin the whole idea of whether or not Tim really listened to Alex's final words or not. I'm not going to say too much because if you haven't watched the series, pause this right now and go watch it because it's worth it. And
spoilers for the series also.
Yeah. But yeah, I agree. There really shouldn't be anything else to follow up the story because it is pretty much finished. There's nothing much else to add to it.
Well, this other thing I'm thinking about and how the series is very closed and very, I don't know, it ends on a good note. It kind of sparks its iconography, kind of sparked what 2010 horror is. Like, the early 2000s was very reliant on found footage and like you got Final Destination and all that and all these different like, let's see how big budget we can make it because CG is still cool. But it was already getting old by the time Marble Hornets did what they did.
Yeah, Marble Hornets was, what was it, like 2009? That's when it debuted. And if you look back at season 1, literally I think like every single or almost every single video has a couple million views.
Yeah.
It was big back in then.
Well, that's the other thing about it. It's like, even if it was fake, it was very entertaining for people. But this idea of the video cameras and making things very physical, but like old physical, not like, you know what I mean, like glitchy. Let's make the physical media. Let's make the finding of the footage more corrupted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's something that Blair Witch or Paranormal Activity really didn't look into. It's kind of archival, old, ancient areas, but only ancient through time. And honestly, in a way, I think that's sparked a movement, whether through the Slenderman game, then to like Five Nights at Freddy's, that nowadays we live, all these horror movies that come out are always trying to be this, we lost our sense of childhood somewhere, and now we're like wandering around as adults in this mystery.
Let's not forget, it inspired a whole entire Slenderverse thing on YouTube. Now, there's a whole bunch of Slenderman-based web series on YouTube right now. They're not in any way connected to Marble Hornets. Marble Hornets is his own thing. But after Marble Hornets came out, then there was Everyman Hybrid, Tribe 12, which is still going, and I'm still following that, which that is pretty good. There's also Dark Harvest, which I'm also following right now. And there's even other Slenderverse stuff that actually go even deeper into the universe. They even include the Rake and stuff, which Everyman Hybrid did that first. And I think Whispered Faith is the one that really, goes deep into that. And yeah, it's crazy. It's still, to this day, Marble Hornets is still like inspiring creators to make their own series and everything. Yeah, it's really interesting.
And I think it enacted also a trend on YouTube of, just like the Let's Players were really up and coming, like PewDiePie was just a couple steps away with the Slenderman game. So like, in a way, Marble Hornets is to thank for most Let's Players nowadays.
Absolutely.
But also the absurdist side of YouTube, like absurdist horror on YouTube, because people would go to see Marble Hornets all the time because they didn't know if it was real or not, or it was just so messed up, but like it blended reality and fiction, and it turned into like those things that you tell people to look up on YouTube, and I don't know what the right word for it is, but it's the genre that's synonymous with like Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, or what's another good example? All these sorts of very bizarre YouTube mysteries, YouTube videos that people were always attracted to because they had no idea who thought it up or why it was so twisted, and really a creative passion for the unknown and going into the deepest recesses of someone's mind in order to be like, here's a triggering, like, and that can only be done on the internet, honestly, because back in the day with horror, it's like, oh, this is a scary thing that's really scary to us, and that's, and when they tried doing bigger things, doing niche things, it wouldn't get the attention it deserves because people want to see hack and slash, people want to see blood, but now we can really try doing something not super pretentious and not just for the gore factor, something that people are just get successful because it's interesting, not because a big studio's paying for it, not because they have a big visionary behind it, just because it's interesting.
Exactly. And even like if you look at Sky at your channel, even like to people who watch Sky Films, if you watch the stuff that we make, like
Project Phil,
like Project Phil and stuff, like all the driving scenes that we're doing right now, that's all inspired by Marble Hornets as well.
Yeah.
And even
Ergo, we got to talk about it.
Yeah, we got to talk about Ergo. As much as it pains me, we need to talk about Ergo. So when we made Ergo, it was like, I want to say like 2012, 2013. Yeah, actually,
2013.
it was like late 2013, early 2014.
Yes.
And that was at the time when Marble Hornets was actually still going on. And I remember, like, Sky, you came up to me, like, during youth group or something, and like, I remember I was, like, talking to you about Marble Hornets, and you're like, yeah, let's make something like that.
Yeah, that's
and
basically...
I was like, I totally didn't want to do it, but then I just did it anyway.
Hey, after a while, like, we both were like, this is really stupid, but we want to do the story anyway. And
we were like 12 or 13 at the time.
Yeah, we kept planning it. We're like, we're gonna make it just like this, but I don't know.
But
like
it just didn't work out at all.
No,
if you look back at it, it's one of the most cringiest things ever, but it's hilarious.
It does not do its job well. The most horror-filled thing was the one teaser we made because no one spoke.
I just gotta tell you something, man. You know, I always find random junk at the street, but I never take it.
That was the weird thing. It was also a bunch of 13-year-olds trying to act like they're full-grown adults. Like, Shay was in a car.
Shay was our age.
I just drove here.
Pass it off as him, like, being able to drive a car. And it was so dumb. Dude, he still doesn't have his license, by the way. At least I don't think.
I don't. Well, that's Corona-wise. Anyway, not to get off topic.
Yeah.
But even, like you said, you were a big Marble Hornets fan at the time, and
yeah, I was.
I saw part of it. I didn't see everything, but I was inspired.
Yeah, but like, at that time. So yeah, this is my personal journey with Marble Hornets. So it was back in like 2012, 2013. This was at the time when Slender Man was huge, and you know everybody was talking about it. And I was like, and I actually went up to I think Shay. And I was like, what is this Slender Man thing that people are talking about? And he's like, oh, it's this creepy thing on the internet. And I was like, okay, this sounds cool. So I looked it up, and, you know, I was into Slender Man and all that stuff. But then, like, a few months in, I discovered Marble Hornets. And, like, at the time, I would say, like, for the first day, I was like, oh, my gosh, is this real? This is awesome. But then after a while, I was like, oh, this is fake. But for some reason, I was still, like, intrigued. And then at one point, I just started watching the whole series. And then I caught up, and it was like in the middle of season 3. They were still making season 3 at the time I got into it. And I want to say I caught up right around, I want to say entry 68 or 9, maybe even 70 or 71. Around that time, that's when I like caught up, and then I was keeping up with, you know, what they were doing. And I was actually watching, like, the most intense part of the whole series in real time as they were uploading. And it was very exciting. I remember watching the second to last entry. I was just sitting in the apartment. So my house, there's, like, 2 apartments. And I was just sitting in one empty one because it was in the middle of, you know, renovation. And I was just sitting there by myself watching this video, and after it was over, I just remember shaking. And then, literally, like, a week later, they uploaded the very last entry, and I'm, like, in Alabama already, because I visit Alabama for the summer, and I was like, oh my gosh, and, like, I wouldn't shut up about that entry while I was at one of my relatives' house, and they're like, what are you freaking out about? And I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, then, like, I remember I tried to get Sky into Marble Hornets so bad back in that time, and it wasn't until 2018 where like the summer of 2018 when I was really able to show him the whole entire series, and yeah, he enjoyed it.
Well, it wasn't that I haven't seen any entries. I was still intrigued by it, but at the same time, I was still trying to keep up with other shows. Like, I was watching Gravity Falls as it came out, and that was my own mystery thing. And like both of them, the finale of Marble Hornets and the beginning of like the mysteries in Gravity Falls really lined up very well. Where at a time we were both kind of looking into mysteries,
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
think
Gravity Falls came out at the time when Marble Hornets was like
last season.
it was like season 2 or in the middle of season 2 or 3 at that point. Plus one, yeah.
Well, the cool thing with all that, just to show that it was very influential on us and the world at the time. And I don't know. I think it comes down to that the show was still grounded. It wasn't that like it was just a scary thing. It had characters. You know, you cared about them. And I still find myself kind of using Tim in that series, like being inspired by his character whenever I'm making films, like having this loss of, you know, I wrote one short where someone has such bad memory loss they can't remember what their mom looks like, and all I remember about trauma is like Tim, like in that series when he's just full on. I don't, you know, I imagine being fired from a job because they said you didn't come into work for a week. Stuff like that is very, the way it's written, it's lightning in a bottle almost. It was obvious that from the start. You guys should watch. People who are listening now, you should listen to watch the Nightmind videos on them, because he goes into detail not just about the lore, which is very expansive, but he also goes.
And he explains the whole entire series. But I recommend watch Marble Hornets first.
Yes,
you got to watch the series first, and also remember along with Marble Hornets, there was another channel that they used that was connected to Marble Hornets called To the Ark.
Yeah.
Which that is canonical to the story. And one of the characters in the universe actually uses that channel to send messages to the main character, Jay, and to even Alex and Tim and stuff. And in those videos, they're like super, like, they're really cryptic and stuff like that. Yeah. But each video into the Ark has meaning to it. There's always some kind of code or clue for people to, you know, to discover and solve, and it was that's where like most of the ARG stuff really came into play, was in the To the Ark videos.
That and so Twitter page.
You know, when you're watching Marble Hornets, you need to find there's a playlist on YouTube where it has all the videos in in chronological uploaded order with To the Ark included. So
yeah, definitely do that. Anyway, the thing I was saying with it was just the behind the scenes was just riddled with all sorts of nightmares and trying to film in all these locations, and oh my gosh, like I just know we've tried doing the same thing, and it's very, very hard because you're doing a multiple episode run. You're not being paid. You don't have producers. You don't have something. You just have on your seat of your pants creative like voice. So
yeah, they took I think it was like a 7-month break after they finished season 1, and before they didn't even think about making a season 2. Season 1 was gonna be the definitive whole entire series, and they were gonna end it differently too. But you know, they left it open. And they were just so burnt out that they took a several-month break, and then they started season 2. I even remember, I think Nightmind even mentioned this. When they were filming so I don't want to give away too much, but when they were filming the one entry where we figure out what happened to Seth, which I believe that's entry, I want to say entry 24 or 5. It's the tape that Jay finds in the Red Tower.
Mm-hmm.
When they were filming that scene with Seth, apparently it was like during a very hot summer, and it was so hot, and they were just like so grumpy. When they finished, they weren't even like talking to each other at all. When they were driving back home, they were just so upset and burnt out. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I could see that. I've been burnt out from making like one 10-minute video sometimes. It can happen. The good thing is that they kept to it, and they really made something that was unprecedented. We keep saying it, and the reason we don't mention lore specifically is because unlike the other movies and TV shows we're going to mention, I don't think Marble Hornets is as remembered as it should be in that way, because
it's definitely like one of the most underrated creative things ever, really,
because it was a big precursor. It was a big precursor to what you like now. So if you appreciate stuff like Gravity Falls or Five Nights at Freddy's, all these things that that the 2010s identified as horror mystery.
Especially if you love Gravity Falls, you'll definitely love Marble Hornets in that case.
Marble Hornets is more in depth with the codes in a way. It's very man. But yeah, it's good. It's really good, and I think people should check it out. I guess that's what I have to say. And just remembering on it, it definitely influenced me as a filmmaker more than I know.
Oh yeah. One question, Sky. So when I first, just for your quick first impressions, what were your first impressions when you finally watched the whole entire series for the first time?
When it ended?
Yeah.
Honestly, that Crossroads bit was really it was refreshing, but also I'm trying to compare it to another feeling I had from a different film. Because I don't know, endings in these big blockbusters always have to be so Lord of the Rings-esque. You got to make sure everyone's happy, everyone's smiling. And
you got to make sure every single door is closed.
Yeah, that's what Endgame did. That's what Lord of the Rings did. Even Back to the Future, as much as I like Back to the Future, it was this big, we got to make sure he doesn't get in the car accident. We got to make sure. But it was a breath of fresh air to see the show just make a definitive end and just that's
and
it.
Let the fans interpret whatever they want, whatever happened. Yeah. Before Nightmind even came, I had this whole idea of what happened. And then when Nightmind, came in and explained the whole series, my whole entire view of the show was completely different. It was insane.
Yeah, that's the other thing. We're not just talking about a movie. We're talking about a franchise, something that's been going on for 3 seasons. And typically, people don't like abrupt endings. Think of, I don't think you're familiar, but The Sopranos ending, where it was, the mob show. It ended with everything against the main character, and then they go into a bar and they start playing "Don't You Forget About" "Don't Stop Believing," and it just stops in the middle of the song, and the show ends, and nothing is concluded, and it feels so unsatisfying because you don't have any answers. This show stops abruptly, but it gives you all the answers you need. It's one of a kind in that way. While Gravity Falls did these big breaks in time for you to figure out what the mystery is, this show just was that's it, and you have to figure out the rest. And I love that. I honestly love that because it's very upfront, and it allows the audience to think more for themselves instead of letting it all play out. Like you said, they can interpret the ending whatever way they want, but there is a true ending. It's not, in a way, it's open-ended, but it's not unsatisfying, which is so rare in any series. Not just a YouTube series, in any show. Try to watch any TV show out there. We're gonna get into Avatar eventually on this series also, but I don't know. I'm not gonna spoil any of the series, but most series it's either they leave an open door for more to be done, or there's 3 ways. They either leave a door for more to be done and then nothing happens. So it's basically a hard cancellation. Every single plot is completely, all the doors are shut to the point where it's it feels tedious. or it's the middle where I don't know how to describe it. It reaches a level of doneness that isn't satisfying enough, but you don't really want to go down the road that it's leading, or it's just a hard cancellation where there's no answers. And this show did none of that. It found a way to make it all satisfying, which is always hard for a series when you have everything building towards it.
Yeah, and there's still answers that like Troy Wagner, Tim Sutton, and Joseph Delage, which they're the creators of Marble Hornets. Yeah. There's still answers in the series that they still don't want to explain because they do know some of the stuff. I to this day, I think they still haven't even explained how they even made the operator.
I'm pretty sure it was a mannequin.
I think they did. I think because I remember Tim Sutton one time saying on like the fact forums or something that they used like a small doll or something and they just like blew it up to make it look big.
You keep saying that, but there's a lot of scenes where he's fully there, where the camera moves and he moves with the camera. Unless they have like $1 million special effects, I'm pretty sure that's a.
Yeah, well, I think they were living in like Tuscaloosa, Alabama at that point, so I don't think so. There's even some entries though where you can tell it's just a guy in a suit.
Yeah, that's true.
But like 90% of the time, you have no idea what they used to make them. And it's funny, not even just like creative web series and stuff that it inspired and art and just creators in general. Even like me as an artist, because I love to draw and just make a whole bunch of stuff. Back when I was like in 8th grade, and Marble Hornets was still going on, and I was like 12 or 13. Like all the time in school, I would just take out like one of my journals, and I would just be like drawing scenes and recreating scenes. On a sheet of paper and just like from different angles and stuff like that. And we'll show some stuff right here, like while I'm talking about it.
Yeah.
I would just take all my favorite entries and I would just like I would just like draw like Tim looking down that hoodie.
Yeah.
It's really weird calling them Masky and Hoodie because they're really dumb names.
They're fan names, though.
But yeah, they're fan-made names, though. But what else can you do? Well, yeah, like I remember drawing that, but like from a different angle, and even Sky's favorite entry, the one where Jay goes inside that maintenance tunnel.
Oh, man.
I have video of that too. You just flipping out.
It's scary, bro.
There are, like, looking back at the series now, it's not as scary as, I remember that it's really more the stuff that you don't see.
Yeah, if you know what happens,
really
it's not as scary. But if you're just going in, you don't know what can happen.
Exactly, but I remember, I think it was entry 61 in season 3, and, I was showing Sky, and it was, like, really late at night, and we were in his living room. And he was just, you were like spazzing out in that scene because it was just, it was so scary.
I freaked out when he saw the dude's face. It works. I don't know how else to say it. It works.
Yeah, Marble Hornets, like, realistically, it's not that scary, but it still has the ability to make you think that you're watching something very scary.
Well, that's the cool thing about it, and that's what I think. I know, like, it's kind of been neutered recently because now everything is safe for kids. Now, like, now even kids are fans of Five Nights at Freddy's and all these.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of ruining this idea of it. But when it first started off, all this was taken very seriously in the early 2010s. It wasn't the kind of thing where you put on the movie, here's the bad guy. You know what I mean? It's what the heck is in this town? What is happening? And that was this, I don't know, mystery horror, I guess, in a way. It was basically an ode to Twin Peaks for all of early 2010s.
No, I've never seen Twin Peaks before. I heard it's interesting.
It's pretty good. I haven't seen it the whole thing either, but I've seen select episodes, and people say to watch in order because there's lore and everything like that, and that's cool. And it's obviously inspired a lot of people. But yeah, I just haven't sat down and watched the whole thing myself. The other thing, it's I don't know. It has a lot of style. I don't think I'm personally invested with any of the characters. You know what I mean?
In Twin Peaks?
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'll give it another chance. A lot of people say I should watch the whole thing. The thing is, though, just because the style is inspired by it, it's really about the story. It's really about this idea that the reason you're going down this mystery is not just because it's a mystery, it's because you care. It's like, what happened to such and such character? Where are these people? Why did this happen? Because you care, because the main character cares. And I think that's the best kind of mystery, is where you have stakes in the mystery. Not like, I don't know. I think it's a bad comparison because there's been good Scooby-Doo films, but like classic Scooby-Doo where we go to a place and there's a mystery that needs to be solved and we solve it.
Exactly.
It's not like that.
I don't know anything about Scooby-Doo. I never really grew up with it, but I see what you're saying there.
Well, the show Mystery Incorporated and the DVD movies of the early 90s, Zombie Island, they put the stakes in. They made it so they have a personal investment with everything. It's not just their job. It's not the Hardy Boys or something or Nancy Drew. It's you have a job that's personally like either a family member or your own livelihood. Something about it is drawing you to that. And I don't know. That's very interesting to me. And I think Marble Hornets does it well. I think what can we say? Marble Hornets is the goods is the best live action adaptation of Scooby-Doo.
You put it that way, yeah. I never thought about it that way, but that's actually pretty interesting. And that is why we need to show Chucky, Brian, and McKenna Marble Hornets.
Yeah. Obviously,
because they love Scooby-Doo.
Sparse because we don't have all of them, but I don't know. I'm planning on doing more episodes coming up that will definitely be everyone's forte. So,
oh yeah.
Keep looking.
We're still yet to actually visit all the locations that they filmed at in Marble Hornets.
I would like to do that, not just to see it, but also somehow involve it into one of my projects as an ode to them.
Absolutely, because I have family down in Alabama that and that live only I think 2 or 3 hours away from the filming locations. You know, I would love to go to the abandoned hospital. That's my number one place to go. That and the tunnel.
I want to go to the red building.
The red tower. Tower. You go there. They still have all the graffiti and stuff that they put there.
That's exactly. I want to leave a tape there. I want to psych someone out for the next person who goes there. And it's like it was all real.
Yeah. Okay. So remember the one part in season 3 where Jay and Tim, they're walking in the woods and then they fall in that hole and they find a whole bunch of tapes in that little hole in the woods. Somebody this is on YouTube. Somebody actually went to that area and they found even more tapes in there. There's nothing on them, but there were just more prop tapes in there. And it was just this is awesome.
Right. So the mystery
got more souvenirs.
The mystery will be ruined if anyone found this podcast, but one of these days, we're going to go hide a bunch of real tapes. We're going to tape it over and make our own mystery and put it in Alabama.
We're just going to, create a little context. We're just going to...
Just do our own ARG.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Oh, my gosh. Imagine. That would be great.
The funny thing is with... if I do an ARG, I want it to be very serious until the end. I want it to be
Actually...
all this build up, and then at the very end, it's here's a coupon for McDonald's.
Actually, Tribe 12 actually was originally going to do that. So, people who are not familiar with Tribe 12, it's another Slender Man-esque series. It's a thing that Marble Hornets also inspired, and it's still going to. I think I mentioned that earlier. but I remember it was originally just like a Marble Hornets parody. Like if you go back to the first videos of Tribe 12, you'll notice it's kind of just like, just all references to Marble Hornets, but then it just slowly becomes its own thing. But there is a video out there that the creator of that series made that was gonna end the whole series, and it was just a complete joke. So like what you're saying right there, that almost happened with Tribe 12.
Yeah, let's do it. Hilarious. Let's do the Monty Python ending for
yes.
for Project Phil. Let's just do the. We build it up. You finally see Phil, and then it just ends.
Oh. Also, I can't believe we haven't mentioned this yet. So this has been a running joke, but this is also something that we actually kind of want to do.
I know what you're
so I'm just gonna give the basic premise of Marble Hornets. So it starts off, the main character, Jay, he reminisces about a time when he was helping his friend Alex with a college film called Marble Hornets. And there's an actual trailer that THAC made on their channel for that in-universe film.
Student film.
And Sky and I, we've been talking about how funny it would be if we actually made a complete version of Alex Crayley's Marble Hornets and make it so bad.
The funny thing about it is that, like, when you're watching the fake trailer, which people should watch, I'll link it, you notice that, like, it's really funny because it takes a lot of tropes of student films in college. Like, you got the ukuleles, you got the, I'm going back to my hometown to remember everything, and I'm just a wildflower kind of like early 20s person who doesn't know what he's doing with his life and likes this one girl. And then I don't know. I think it would be really funny if we just kept playing on those tropes to a full 15-minute or at least 20-minute film.
And also maybe here and there actually have like the operator in the background, like not blatantly, but still somewhere in the background, just kind of like ruining the movie a little bit, which would actually be pretty funny. But also
I would love to make a whole movie like. I know Cloverfield tried doing it, but I'd rather do it my own way, where a whole entire movie where it's supposed to be a different movie, but the background tells a different story. And if you pay attention to the background, it's a whole different movie. Like, I want to do a romantic comedy, but it's actually a horror movie if you pay attention to the stories happening in the background. Which, the only time I've seen that been done before is in The Cable Guy, which is a dark comedy that no one liked when it came out about Jim Carrey being a cable guy for Matthew Broderick and won't be in his Relentless. But in the background, Ben Stiller, who directed the film, on TV, there's a continuous trial about two twins and one of the twins murdering the other twin and him facing trial and him going to prison.
Wow.
And it's like this whole other like story that has nothing to do with the main story. But it continues.
What year was this movie made?
Oh, it was like 95. It was in the middle of Jim Carrey's career, and it just totally, I don't know. No one liked it because it was too dark. They didn't want to see him. They didn't want to see Ace Ventura being angry. They didn't want to see him like actually be vengeful. But I think the film works way more now because it.
I might check it out.
Yeah, it's like the only problem is like I don't know. It's very 90s. Raunchy comedy where it's very atypical. I don't know.
Well, is it like
it's like Ace Ventura in ways, but it's also dark. I don't know how to describe it.
Is it like Dragon Ball Peel Off Saga inappropriate?
Yeah, kind of. Well, the thing is, like, nah, it's fine. I don't know. I watched it when I was young, so maybe I might. Either way, whatever it is, I think. It was just an inspiration that I want to do something like Marble Hornets-ish, but also, taking the backstory. But we'll see. Play it by ear. I experimented that with my Titanic 2 trilogy. So, which I also want to make a fake trailer for.
Yeah.
Anyway, well, we hit the 50-minute mark. I think it's time to wrap it up. We will have a very, very special guest on our next episode, so please stay tuned.
So yeah, happy 11th anniversary to Marble Hornets. And really quick, before we leave out, I just want to give a special thanks to Troy Wagner, Joseph Delage, and Tim Sutton, and everybody else who are involved in the making of Marble Hornets. Thank you for inspiring us and many others on the internet and being goofy.
Yeah.
So,
Thanks for sharing your creative vision with us. Everyone, take care. Have a good night.
Later.